Welcome. I know people are going to continue to trickle in, but I think we should get started because this is such a fun topic. And I know that we have probably much more that we could talk about than we're going to have time to, so I don't want to cut us short at all. I would say if you feel comfortable, it'd be great if you were willing to sit closer to the front because we are hoping to have a little bit of a conversation, and this is a big room. The back feels really far away. So if you feel, yeah, come on up. We even moved the panelists closer. It's about being together. So my name is Laura Raymond. I am going to be moderating the panel today. I work with the Washington State Department of Agriculture, the WSDA, and I lead what we call the Regional Markets Program, which is our small farm and direct marketing program and farm to school as well. And so I am honored to be moderating this panel, to be learning along with the rest of you. And it's just, there is no end to the creativity and inventiveness and sharp strategy that I see being implemented by direct marketing farms around the state. And so the chance to be able to kind of dive deep into that topic with all of you is great. I love it. So thanks. And I hope I asked some good questions that are interesting to all the rest of you as well. I would like to start by welcoming our panelists. I'm going to go from left to right, and I'll just introduce them briefly, and then we'll have plenty of time to hear more about them and their farms, and they can tell you what they think is important that you know about them. So Alex Ekins and Amy Dolomont farm Ace of Spades Farm, which is maybe 15 minutes from here? 4.5 minutes from Spokane. A small CSA, or I shouldn't say small, but CSA and a whole bunch of other direct marketing methods. And Lisa Hasselman from Vashon Island, is that right? I'm trying to do this by memory here, who is a diverse produce farmer as well as cut flower grower. And Perrin Meriwether works also from Vashon, works with a new creative collaborative marketing effort for Vashon Island farmers. Great. So before we get started with sort of the questions that I want to ask, I wanted to just get a sense of who's here in the room today. So I'm really curious, how many of you are direct marketing farmers? Well, that's a good question. It can mean a lot of different things, can't it? It's kind of a wonky word. The idea is basically, do you sell your products pretty much directly to the people who are going to consume them? So that's my next question. How many of you sell at farmers markets? And how many people have a CSA? And how many of you have an on-farm stand? Or U-Pick? Or what am I forgetting? Well, any other really creative, different ways that I've missed? Anybody do any agritourism? Okay, great. So what I'm hoping is that along with these questions, you may have questions of your own, or you may have strategies or experiences to contribute to the discussion as well. So with that, I thought maybe we could just start with each of you saying a little bit about your farm, where it is, how you came to be farming, and what methods you use to sell your products. Just kind of an overview. Do you want to start? And we'll just go down the row.
I'm Alex Ekins, co-owner of Ace of Spades Farm with Amy. We are located, like I said, mere minutes from here. We're just west of downtown on top of the Palisades. It's sort of that basalt rim that you see when you look west. We farm on family land, my family's land. It was originally my great-grandfather's property. It's where I grew up. I moved back to Spokane late 2014 to start the farm. The intention of starting a small, diverse vegetable farm with direct marketing. We grow a fairly large diversity of produce. We focus on high-value items. I have, in my past, worked very closely with others in operating and owning a number of restaurants. I also was involved in the creation of scratch and peck feeds on the west side. That's what I was doing before I moved back to Spokane. And so I sort of had a bit of a direct connection with what the consumer was asking for, the way in which those products were being successfully marketed, and also just an understanding of what a restaurant wants and how they want it, why they may want it. And so all of that was kind of just the underpinnings of how things started. We grow a lot of baby greens, We also focus on heirloom tomatoes. So say this past season, we were harvesting around 250 pounds of baby greens a week, a couple hundred pounds of tomatoes a week. We really try and grow produce that is unique in its flavor, unique in its beauty, and unique in how we produce it so that there's true health behind that. And sort of in a nutshell, we've coined a phrase which is flavor, beauty, health. And that pretty much encapsulates the way that we approach our products. We have a line of baby greens that we sell to various small grocers directly and through a cooperative as well. We sell at a farmer's market, Perry Street Farmer's Market, which has been really good to us. We feel that we bring a particular niche of product to the market, again, focusing on that unique type of vegetable product, the specialty vegetable, the gourmet-oriented type of vegetable. We're not producers of large food. We have no interest in growing more food. We have an interest in growing better food. And so we practice under kind of a terminology that I call deep organic farming. We are not a certified organic farm, and we don't even really associate ourselves with certified organic farms. We feel that we implement a whole range of practices and attitudes on our farm that just don't even fall within the same category. So as far as, say, marketing or branding ourselves, I'm not trying to associate myself with hydroponic Guatemalan food. So it's really important for us to differentiate and to highlight why it is that what we do is dramatically different from any other produce that you would be able to find within the Spokane region.
Great. Do you want to add anything to that, Amy?
You have it, like.
Amy has an amazing eye for varietal selection.
I have an artistic background, and I think that's carried over into food, which has been really an interesting journey. So creating products that are beautiful is definitely something that we're focused on, and out of the ordinary.
Right.
Great, thank you. And you want to come up here and show us?
Might come up.
Great.
I always like to see a few pictures while I'm talking. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my name's Lisa Hasselman, and is there a mic? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here. There you go.
Great.
And I think
Okay. This is my husband. My husband and I own and operate a certified organic produce, egg, and cut flower farm on Vashon Island. And we've got about 24 acres, but it's mostly forested, and we've got about 2 in production. And similar to Ace of Spades, we kind of try and find our kind of niche role in the market. We've been around about 3 years, and we started at just our farm stand and to local chefs, and we also sell at the Vashon Farmers Market. We sell to a local grocery store, which is not to say direct marketing, but I have gotten a number of customers just from our name being in the grocery store contact us directly. So it's really been a way to kind of build our direct client base, just getting our name and brand in the store. And then really successfully the past 2 years, we've been working with a program called VashonFresh.com, which Perrin works for and we'll talk more about, but it's an online marketplace for Vashon grown and produced. There's some value-added products as well. And that's been a great way for us to sell kind of our midweek produce when we don't have the farmer's market on the weekend. VashonFresh.com delivers in midweek. And my husband and I, neither of us are that focused on, I don't know how to get to the pictures. I'll just go through them. The artistic side of things. And so we don't want to work on building a website. It's great that Vashon Fresh has a website, and we can post the pictures that we take of our products, and they are up against is the wrong word, they're up with all of our fellow farms on the island. I have to say, none of which we're in competition with, because there's just such a small amount of local food and cut flowers available for everyone. And so it's really just differentiating each other by supporting each other, by promoting those unique individual stories of each of our farms. And definitely one of the biggest things that we've done for developing our marketing is to develop our story and what's important to us growing. The kind of historical context of our farm is really important, knowing the past growers who have been on the land and knowing their stories and the stories of the land. Vashon Island is a small island. It's got a really interesting history, a lot of progressive politics. There's been a lot of different cultures that have contributed to the land and the agricultural community. And the property where we're farming, it was owned by a Japanese family for most of the last century. Let me get to, here we go. How do I go back? Here we go. And we purchased the land from a couple of sisters in their 80s, sisters of the Fujioka families, and they taught us how to harvest this plant called fuki that's growing by a pond that was dug on our property, and we're still selling it at the farmer's market, and we're still working with that family to kind of uncover the history of our property, and it's been a really great connection for us, and it's just interesting to bring new products to our local market, or re-bring them to our local market, really. Here we are at the farmer's market, so I think that's...
Yeah, I'm getting musical chairs here. Perrin, do you want to talk a little bit about Vashon Fresh?
As Lisa said, my name is Perrin Meriwether. I have been a chef and a kitchen manager for about the last 10 years, so most of my experience with food is on that side of things. In the last year, I started managing the Vashon Farmers Market and our online market, Vashon Fresh. And you can kind of see, Lisa gave a pretty good overview of what we do. The Vashon Island population is about 10,000, and we capitalize on a very small part of that through the farmers market. And we used to have a Wednesday market in addition to our Saturday market. And once that stopped, we realized there was another option for people to sell their produce and make it available. So all week long you can order. It's a very straightforward marketplace. You can search by product. So if you wanted to say buy some kale, it depends. I mean, you can see that there are different farms represented on the front page. We had the first year, 2017, we had 27 vendors. 2018, our second year, we had 38. That was reflected in an increase in sales too. We had a 20-week season the first year, a 16-week season this year, and we went from about $14,300 to over $26,000, so almost a 90% increase in sales. And it's a delivery-based service, which is a big boon for people. Folks like to not have to leave the house. If you know that a local basket of food is going to be delivered to your door on Wednesday, it's very easy to think about it as a secondary part to the market where you're going to go socialize, listen to music, buy lunch. This is a much different thing where you can plan kind of your grocery shopping. For the next 2 years, we are grant funded. We have grants through the Bullitt Foundation and King County Conservation District. And over the next 2 years, our projected sales are hopefully will increase to a point that makes that program sustainable for itself in the future. We are a 2-employee operation at the moment, which is a pretty great labor cost for something that is between a flagship program and a market tester. We partnered a little bit with Kitsap Fresh this year, which does a very similar program. They have a lot more customers to pull from and a lot more producers that offer products all year round. They're allowed to run 52 weeks out of the year because of their product availability. We don't have that option at the moment, but as production increases and as marketing gets more streamlined, we hope to eventually go all year round as well. That's a pretty good overview of what we've got going on. Next year, the big change for our storefront will be the addition of a wholesale option for our producers. So in the same way that you just go in and make a storefront with pictures like this, you can offer something that is only available with a minimum bulk order. So restaurants on the island and people that do catering operations and things like that have an option to just get in touch with you passively. And yeah, as Lisa spoke a little bit about branding for people, you can see that there are, in just the straightforward storefront, you can see that there are a few things that you might be more interested in. I mean, I am not sure what these tomatoes are going to look like because there's no picture up. I'm not sure what these are going to look like, but I mean, even a decorative gourd looks amazing on some of this. So we did notice that there was a big conversational element to how people approached their vendors, their farms. People like to hear the story. We have the option for you to make a big biography and a page that tells the story of your farm, why you're doing this, where you're located, the people you know, the people you like. And the one thing that we really did notice is that if you are marketing directly, not in competition, but in addition to a bunch of other people that are looking for the same market, it is important to brand yourself consistently, even if you don't have something that is like a huge visual standout. As long as people are buying the same lettuce or tomatoes a couple of weeks later and it has the same logo on it and that same ribbon or whatever you decide to do, it's a really big reason for people to remember who you are and why they bought that. And it's a good reason for people to come back and buy it again. And if you guys have any more questions, yeah.
So can you explain the back end of how it works? You get your farmers market vendors exclusively to buy into selling their online? You know,
We actually have a lot of overlap with the farmers market, but this is another good option for people that maybe don't, farmers that have families or kids that don't have time to wake up, they don't have staff to go and stand at the market for 4 hours, Maybe it's too far away from their farm. Maybe they don't quite have enough diversity of product and they're really good at getting good at one thing. This is a good way for smaller producers. I mean, we have a lot of producers that are even, I would consider garden size more than farms. And it's a good way to dip your toe in the water and see what people think about what you're doing and whether or not it's worth it for you to scale up and to try to make money gardening and farming, as opposed to kind of gambling all at once and going to the farmer's market to see what happens.
And who's responsible for the delivery?
I was this year. Myself and the other manager, we receive deliveries in the morning on Wednesday, and the people who can't make it to our aggregation site, we drive around. We spend about 4 hours receiving product, and then we spend 2 hours in the afternoon aggregating into bins or grocery bags, and they all go into coolers or the backs of trucks, and we make a delivery map and deliver to people's homes. We had to use refrigerated shopping bags quite a bit this year. We asked people to put coolers out, so it's a very easy delivery system. If people aren't home, they can still count on eggs not being gotten into by raccoons or produce wilting in the sun. But a 50 cent like ice cream bag, like they have at Safeway, does wonders for an hour or two of groceries being in the shade. Thanks, Laura.
So the topic, the theme of this session is tried and true to brand new. Isn't that fun? So I thought it would be fun for us to start talking specifically about farmers markets, because I think for many people that is sort of the ultimate, the foundational direct market. You know, you bring your product to market and people come to you and you have a transaction. So I'd like to hear from you about how you utilize your markets. What are strategies that you've found work or maybe don't work? Because I think it's also important to talk about things you've maybe tried and wouldn't try again. But what are the strategies that you've found really effective at your market for differentiating yourself, for helping tell the story? I've heard all of you say that that's an important part of communicating with your customers. So at your market stand, how do you tell your story? And I'm wondering if there's any of those like practices that you just do every time because you know it works, and maybe some things that you're experimenting with in terms of your market strategy. Anybody want to? And feel free to jump in, whoever wants to take that first.
I'll just give a few examples that of things we've tried. One thing that works for us is just to make it beautiful, the produce that we have, and kind of set ourselves up aesthetically at the market. But we've tried a lot of like info cards. People told us to do recipe cards, combine our products into like salsa kits, all with minimal success at the market. I think a few things that have worked for us at the market have been bringing produce that is distinct from everybody else at the market. Black cap raspberries, ground cherries. Many people have heard of these here in a growing community, but they're unusual for people at the market, and it makes people stop at your table. But we struggle with the farmer's market because it is such a large time commitment for being a small farm.
We've learned to approach the farmer's market first and foremost from a very lean perspective. We've learned that it's incredibly important to know your pars, so that it's one side to talk about just the specific marketing, but it's another side to just talk about why your marketing leads to other types of successes. So if you're going into your farmer's market and you don't know how much produce you're going to sell, it's very hard to market that product because there's no correlation between where you put your effort to where people's demand actually lies. So first and foremost, like, you're going to just have to spend time developing your market, which is how many pounds of X, Y, or Z do people buy week over week over week? And there will become averages. Like, you will know that certain holidays behave certain ways. You'll know that certain time periods of the day are going to be different than other time periods of the day as the season changes. So you have to be really clued into what those trends are so that on the back end, when you go into the market, you can have spent your time correctly on the correct products. So if, say, you spend all of your time bunching kale, right, and you have a giant pile of kale that looks just like kale, well, and everyone's more interested in this smaller item that has a nice label on it, that has a name, that is clearly different from other people's piles of kale, right? They're going to want to be more attuned to that. And so you should be shifting your focus onto the products that people are going to, like she said, focus on because they're different, and that you can then put more of your effort into that so that there's a greater return, because if you're branding your product, you're most likely going to then be able to charge a little bit more for that type of product. The return on that product is going to be better for your farm. So we're very strategic about how we approach going into the farm. When we wash and pack for the farm, everything is packed immediately into the coolers that we're taking to the market, at the pars that we know we will sell at the market, in specific coolers that are designed just to be for display, and other coolers that are designed for the replacement of the display, so that once we set up, I can remove those coolers from my situation so that the booth appears to be very clean and streamlined and not cluttered, so that the focus is on the produce and not on my coolers that are piled up. All of these things go into making the market successful for you, so that when we show up to the market, we can unload all of our product, because the truck itself is packed in a way where what you set up first is coming out first. So everything is streamlined in this, so that when we show up to the market, it's like lightning. We're set up, we know exactly where things are going to be placed, how they're going to be displayed. We've spent a lot of time changing as markets progress how we display things, what we use to display things, so that you don't look like every other farm at the market. Farmers emulate each other, and things become static, and your customer will become static with seeing the same thing. And so even when we do subtle shifts where we'll put our sign facing east-west, because we're a corner booth, east-west for a number of weeks, and we'll shift it to the north-south, and people will comment like, oh, your booth looks different, they engage, and it's sleight of hand, right? But it's those things that make people engage with you. The branding is really important, consistent branding through and through, so our signs match our labels, match our business cards, match our box labels, match our bags. There's no inconsistency there. Even if you don't have like a lot of branding going on, just choose something and have it be the same. If you choose the bunny rabbit, let it be the bunny rabbit, right? Don't have it be the bunny rabbit and the tree and the bee and the tractor, and nobody will know who you are, right, at the end of the day. So that's really important as well. Color is important at the farmer's market. I think psychologically human beings are drawn to large blocks of color. So it appears as if you've found abundance when you've stumbled across the big pile of orange, right? This is sort of like hunter-gatherer mentality where it's like, this is the bush full of berries, right? You don't go to the bush that only has a couple berries, right? You want the bush that's full of berries. So that kind of speaks to that stack it high, watch it fly notion, which is that you want to present an abundance to your customer. You don't want to depict yourself as only having a few. People are scared of that. They will leave when they only think that you have a few. You might even be better off taking that one object off the table that's just the last one, because it signals to people that that's all you have versus that you sold out. It's almost better to be sold out than to have one left.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic in terms of the tried and true. How many of you sort of follow some of those same approaches in your market stands? Yeah, color, abundance, consistency. It can be sometimes difficult to tell your story at a market. It's not the same kind of a platform as maybe a website or technology or even a shelf talker at a grocery store. One of the things I'm curious about is the way in which all your different direct market channels interact with each other. So Lisa, you mentioned you have a few things at a local grocery store, and some customers actually found you from the store. They found either your farm stand or your farmer's market stand. I think farmers markets, sometimes people think, oh, this takes so much time out of my day. Is it effective? But there's also ways in which farmers markets can help leverage your other market channels and vice versa. So I'm curious if you have any strategies for having those different market channels sort of reinforce each other. She's looking stumped.
Through our labeling on our products, we have the same product at the farmer's market that we are able to send to our direct customers, that we send to our retail customers. So people are able to recognize what that product is over the way that it's distributed to them. So they're able to remember, oh, I saw that product at that store. That's you guys.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Every farmer's market, there's someone who's commented that they purchased our product at some other location, or that they've recognized the name that's used at the restaurant. It all merges. We recognize that in the kitchen, there's people who work in the kitchen who will buy food in real life, and when you send something into a restaurant, you're dealing with the purchaser or the chef or the owner or whomever, and you're not necessarily directly dealing with a line cook or like the prep guy. But if you have clear labeling on your package, the box when it comes in, and it's consistent with similar labeling on the bag actually in the restaurant, then they have a name to reference. And so when they go to the grocery store or they go to the farmer's market, they equally recognize it. We have definitely increased our chef direct to the farmer's market booth more than we really anticipated. And that's really nice because not only are we located in an area where there are local restaurants that use our product, and so they can just stop by and kind of get the extras that they may need for that weekend, or if they've run through something, but they can also just put an order in with us right there, because they can choose things that perhaps may have been overlooked on the fresh sheet that we have sent them. They're busy people, sometimes language doesn't necessarily match up with what they actually see, so they may come to the market booth and be like, oh, like, what is this? Like, why am I not buying this? And you can say, oh, well, I told you that we have it, you just didn't know. And so then they can place an order, and so that they can either pick it up right there, or we can just write it down and we'll deliver it the next day.
Yeah. So along with that consistency and branding, Lisa, you have a really quite a few nice images of how you do that. And these, can you talk what that is?
Well, just, you would note, we are very low tech. My husband and I, to some degree, we have a printer, and we kept working on a logo forever and ever, and it never really came to be. But we use just the same font in our name, Forest Garden Farm, and then we use craft paper for almost all of our packaging, which goes along with we're really focused on environmental friendly packaging and recycled packaging. And so there's a lot that speaks to the same image, even though we didn't have an artist create a look for us. I did make that little Vashon Island map from tracing, but this is kind of on a separate topic, but just pictures has been a really big consistent through line for us too. It's just making sure the pictures are beautiful, and there's a lot more opportunity to do so with smartphones and whatnot, making your produce look beautiful to go along with your packaging. It's been kind of our strategy, and it looks so boring in this picture, but this is one of our deliveries for VashonFresh.com. It's all individually packaged, so the person who gets the aggregated bag that they ordered from 10 different farms will know that those are our cherry tomatoes, or those are our apples. So there is this direct connection with those people when they go home And then they recognize our craft paper at the grocery store when they're buying the microgreens or something.
We have photos on.
Yeah, do you want to come show some of? And perhaps while you're showing, I think the next question is a little bit about how you maybe use social media marketing similarly to cross-promote your different, I'm hovering because the mic's here. Your different market channels, or how you choose to work with that kind of imagery?
Okay, so I'll just show you some images of our labels. Oops, sorry guys. We use bright colors, different colors for different products. So we sell a whole different array of salad mixes. The other thing I think that's key is that we don't call our products the same as everybody else. We sell homestead salad. We don't sell spring mix, because Earthbound Farm sells spring mix, right? Earthbound Farm calls it spring mix because they branded it as spring mix. Everyone else is copying that. So stop that. Because Earthbound Farms is, the largest aggregator of salad greens in the country, right? So you're not them, right? You want to be different than them because you're a local farm producing a higher quality product than that aggregator. We're actually very proud of the fact that we replace Earthbound Farms at a number of grocery stores for the whole season. Okay? That's important. So find a name for yourself. Choose a name. The homestead salad has become ingrained in the language within local restaurants, at the farmer's market, and it also speaks to our own type of existence. It's from the homestead. It's got quality in it, embedded in it. It's for your home, right?
Do you have, what's in the homestead salad mix change seasonally?
Yes.
Is it, that's not an issue with branding, it's the homestead salad in April, in June, in September?
Is a delicious local salad that's the highest quality that you can find. So we have basically 6 different kinds of baby lettuce, 3 or 4 different kinds of other greens. We'll put microgreens, and we always include edible flowers. And that's what we're known for, is having the beautiful flower salad that's available all the time.
We always make sure it's seasonally appropriate,
Right.
so that you're getting something that speaks to the season.
Right, right. That's important to us, that it does change. That it does change. We had traded a CSA box for a very skilled graphic designer to create these labels. We also just sort of chose our own type of language. We hand harvest. Our farm is ecologically restorative. It's GMO, pesticide, and synthetic free, and it's grown in Spokane, Washington. And we'll probably change that as time goes on. It's always important for us to stay on the forefront, to always be thinking about how to stay ahead, I guess you could say. Sorry, I'm not a PC guy here. Here's an image of our salad.
So I think this has been a really interesting conversation about how you actually try to create your brand and some of your marketing for your products.
Here's just, I guess, a good maybe segue into how we use Instagram. We try and be as synergistic as possible with our customer, which is, say here, it says, fresh homestead salad for our dear friends at Central Food. Go eat at this truly local restaurant. Okay, so we're promoting our customer. We're letting individuals know that you support us if you go to that restaurant, right? And so then that restaurant knows that you're supporting them as well. And that has been really important for us. We've maintained personal relationships with chefs who've left town through social media, just friends, just being friendly, and they've moved back And as a result of just maintaining a camaraderie, we've done tremendous business with that chef since they've returned. So we have found value in social media if you're using it in a way that is focused on creating value for your customer. That's probably the most important part, is thinking about how to create value for your customer.
I feel like social media has become somewhat of a standard practice, right, that we all kind of build into our business models. And I think you had mentioned from Forrest Garden that there's a little bit of a technophobia that I notice is kind of ubiquitous throughout agricultural communities. And my question to the panel is, like with Vashon Fresh, I think like taking that leap and going onto the online marketplace, have you found a market outlet that you were actually surprised of your level of success, where you're like, this really isn't our style, doesn't really fit into our general marketing plan, but we're going to give it a shot anyway? I've noticed that what's coming up on the national scope are these for-profit online marketing tools, and I kind of find them I'm a little frightened by them, right? I don't really like them. So what have you guys found that's been unique in your marketing strategies that maybe has surprised?
Do you want to take that one, Lisa?
I'll fill that just with our knowledge, our experience with Vashon Fresh. One thing that I really like about it is that it, and maybe, like, what are the examples? Are you talking about like Blue Apron, or are you talking about like Barn to Door, where it's like selling your product through, there's like some bigger ones that we're just not at that level yet of volume of produce to sell. I like Vashon Fresh because it can work with smaller growers like us, and even first-year growers if they have just extra. I can create my own marketplace on Vashon Fresh at home very easily in, it's very user-friendly, and it was, the money was, the grants were applied for by our local growers association. Like, it was kind of the farmers getting together and putting together a tool they could use as a cooperative. It's not for profit, it's still needing financial assistance to become, but it looks like it's gonna get there in the next couple years. So it feels much less like paying into a group that says that they can market our product, as just finding a way to cooperatively have an online presence instead of each trying to do it individually on our own, which we couldn't keep up with, and nor did we feel that much interest in doing so. So I feel like there's different platforms, and really getting to know one that's a little more local might, if there is one, or just starting, like we got funding through KCD, everyone in the state could probably get funding from their local, like this is a big issue to compete with those kind of national scale, Amazon Prime, whatever stores, like they are not local food. And so these are grassroots growers associations doing it
That's great.
at a much more local level.
I'd like to pick up on that theme a little bit, because you guys are so great at hitting on every single point. I don't really need to stand here, just let you talk, but I am really curious about what you're seeing in terms of changing kind of consumer interests or needs, like your customers. It's what they're desiring from you or asking or expecting of you changing, and how is that impacting changes in your own selling or marketing strategies? It sounds like, Lisa, you're saying getting online, providing some amount of that convenience for customers that are used to purchasing online is one way.
And just real quickly, like even our farm stand, the biggest complaint we get is, I stop by and there's nothing in it, and it's been full for like 4 days, and then somebody bought us, like people want to know, up to date what you've got, and they want to buy it, on their way home from work at a certain time. Like, people are looking for that convenience, and I'm not knocking them. I think that's part of our society. I think that farmers work really hard, but my last profession, I worked really hard too. I think a lot of people are working really hard and are under pressure in a lot of ways. And so making it a little easier for them to get your product and to buy local products is important and valuable for all of us.
Anyone add on that?
I think it's important to meet consumer expectation. For us, when you go to the grocery store and you're going to buy salad greens, you're most likely going to buy something with a label on it. It's going to say who made it, it's going to say what it is, and it's most likely going to be in a clamshell, right? So you equally need to have your product with a brand, with a label, and in a clamshell. That's just how it is. You're not going to be able to necessarily show up, no offense, but with a paper bag on the grocery store shelf and have that meet the customer comfortability, right? So instead of necessarily trying to knock your customer over the head with a unique, giant purple kohlrabi that they've never had before, maybe you can introduce them with a packaged clamshell of greens that they're very comfortable with. Like, I can't tell you
The
how many
easy
times,
entry, you're saying.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
are like, they're unsure what to buy at the market or something, and you can give them this like really safe, clean, nice looking thing, and then they have it and they realize that it's wonderful. And then they start to ask more questions and engage you as to like, what's this crazy weird thing you have over here at the end of your table, right?
Right.
And you have to.
Oh, and one of the benefits that you all have, those of you who are direct marketing, and of course those of you on the panel, is you have that opportunity to get to know your customer. You have access to direct customer feedback that large companies pay millions of dollars to marketing firms to try to get that kind of information, right? And you get to just talk with your customers directly. And I think that you've all told about the importance of being able to differentiate yourselves and your products, and there's lots of different ways to approach that. And a lot of those reflect the particular characteristics of your customers and your market. So certainly selling salad greens at a farmer's market or a grocery store in Spokane, having had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time in both places, is very different than the sensibilities, perhaps, of a Vashonite who wants to buy from their local farm. And so marketing to reflect that, you know your customers and you can build on that. I'm gonna let you answer and then I see a question. You look like you're gonna say something.
Yes, the clamshells that we have, like I cringe using them, and our client and our customers really have brainstormed with us at the market how to get rid of those clamshells. Because a lot of people on Vashon are progressive environmentally, and I'm sure there are plenty of people in Spokane too. And produce, there's just no way to get around plastic right now. If anybody has any ideas, I would love to hear them or try things that have worked. Like we've thought about jars, but again, glass is almost not recyclable. So anyway,
Struggle.
but yes, we are.
Yeah.
The brown paper goes towards our market.
Mhm.
They don't want red; they want dull colors.
Right. And that's the importance of
Subtlety.
asking and knowing and getting that feedback.
Well, that leads really closely to the question I was gonna ask. The two things, one is a more direct question, one's a bigger picture, but, in our area, the packaging is an issue for a lot of customers, and so I was just going to ask if people had found ways to have things look beautiful and still, it's different if it's in a grocery store, for sure.
Right.
But when you're doing direct sales, I've even had people who are pushing us towards, biodegradable plastic bags, and then we can't put a sticker on it. So I was just gonna lob that at you, but maybe the answer is we still don't know.
Yeah,
around, how to look beautiful and
At the farmer's market, you'll get that customer who comes up to you and is like, I want this not in a package, right? I'm sorry, but that speaks to a sincere naivety about how food is delivered in this country and around the world. The person who says that they buy salad greens in bulk from the grocery store is failing to realize that it came to the grocery store in a bag, okay? It's required by law. It has to be in a clean, new container by law. So, it's not my choosing that there's plastic in the world and that the federal government is regulating that I use a brand new box liner inside of my box. That's the law. So, if you think that food is coming to you somehow by magic, not in a plastic container directly from some, farm. It's absurd, and I'll just kind of leave that at that. Absurd.
But to just quickly build on that, because I think it's also important to realize when we do these direct marketing through like Vashon Fresh, where it's my clamshell, it's going from my farm to the consumer, and there's no aggregate, there's no grocery store.
Right.
There's just there's transportation in the grocery store, there's washing, there's multiple plastic containers usually that they're going through. So even though there is that clamshell, it's just the one. So it's hard to make that sell, but it's a truth. It's reducing the plastic footprint if you're limiting the number of people through which that produce is going. So direct.
Yeah. So we have just a few more minutes. So I want to make sure we have time for questions, and I'll keep asking more if there aren't any, but I'm going to go gray shirt, yellow shirt, red shirt.
I just have a quick question about if there are different ways that you market value-added products or non-food products to your direct market? Or
We
is it all
don't
the
do
same?
value-added products.
Not, I think, in the way that you're talking about it. Nothing jarred, nothing processed.
I think this is something that I love to talk about. I know that you're probably meaning like a processed or a manufactured, a prepared product.
I'm thinking about cut flowers, but.
Oh, cut flowers. Well, there you go.
Yes. Well, we just make, it's just consistent. I do a brown craft paper liner that I buy. And really the hardest part about figuring that stuff out, I feel like, was finding vendors that sell at quantities that I can afford the pricing of. Like usually I have to buy, like I did break down, finally spent $500 to buy 2,000 craft paper liners, and you're not sure if the size is right. It's that initial, like, finding the vendor that will work in that, and I have to give my vendor list, but,
We've gone through a lot of that.
yeah, like, that's the most difficult part. It's just finding a affordable way to do it on a small scale.
Pam.
I wanted to say it's nice to meet another not just an organic grower, not certified organic grower, because there's not many of us around that I'm aware of. And on your bagging, where you put them in brown bags, do people ever get discouraged because they can't see what's inside the bag?
Those brown bags are just how we package through the online marketplace. So
Okay.
they're seeing the picture of the produce.
Okay.
And then the bag comes to them. When we're at the farmer's market, we have brown bags. If people need a bag, most people have their usable bags, but it's just produce set out as per the standard. That's just from the online marketplace.
Thank you.
I'll take your question and then yours. How about that? Do you still have a question? No. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you guys operate CSA? I wasn't sure if that was clear in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was curious about trends that you've seen in that. How long have you been doing CSA?
We've had a version of a CSA every year that we've been farming. We've got 4 years under our belt on this farm. And they've all changed.
They've all been small.
Small, directly focused on groups of people who've already organized themselves as groups. So what I'm always trying to do is slip my product into people's lives. I don't need a person to change their life to have my product. That's a hindrance to them acquiring my product. When they have busy lives, they have schedules, they've already made concessions, they're not going to treat my product as important enough to make too dramatic of a change. So I'm always having to find a way to find where people are congregating. Do they have mutual interests? Is local food a possibility of connecting into their organizational interests, and then trying to find that in this most streamlined possible way. This year it worked out for us that we were contacted by Guardian Life Insurance. They're a Fortune 500 company. to team up with them to provide this campus that they have. They have campuses all across the country, but to provide this campus set of employees with a CSA. And so that worked very well for us because it was a single drop location. They orchestrated all of the individuals signing up. They had us in to give a presentation. And in addition, they actually had a very unique aspect of that CSA, which was that they paid us to grow high quality produce to deliver to the food bank, instead of just giving money to the food bank or, say, having us provide produce that was at a loss or seconds. They actually took that next step, which we found to be profound, because they understood that they were supporting a local farm to support feeding their community. And so that just took the shape of more CSA shares that company purchased from us, which was a fantastic version of a CSA that we will continue with them. That's a great model for us.
Does Vashon Fresh, so do you operate as a CSA model where people are buying memberships, or are they ordering weekly?
We don't have a membership threshold. We just have an order minimum, which means that you can sign up for free and then decide whether or not you want to spend the money to get that delivery each week, depending on what you need.
But you can, individual farms can offer like subscriptions.
If
So,
say you
like,
have enough eggs and you want to give someone the option to get a dozen eggs every week on Wednesday, there are subscriptions we can have for flowers, eggs, things that are consistently available for at least 15 of our 20-week season.
Are there any more questions?
I'm not exactly sure how to frame this. I think I've heard little pieces of it for some of you, but I often find myself torn between supporting myself and like producing a high quality product that gets top dollar, and also producing food that people can afford to eat. And I heard like little pieces, but I was just curious if you could speak to that within this realm of direct marketing.
I have a couple responses to that. One of them is one of the big parts of our farm that we wanted to build is to be socially responsible, environmentally responsible, and financially responsible. And part of being socially responsible is to participate in the local growers association, which includes like a food access partnership where we're trying to get more local food to local people who might have barriers to getting it. But I mean, there's a lot of challenges with being a small farm who isn't quite financially sustainable doing that. But all of our work towards the end of supporting getting more local food into our neighbors, one thing we do is we volunteer to raise money and we give coupons out. Like, I don't know if you're all familiar with Market Bucks that the state provides, but we raise more money so that we can give our own Vashon coupons to people through nonprofits that they can spend at local farms. And it's kind of like raising money for our farm because it comes back to us. And if we get built, so there's ways to work on those social issues that include trying to build more financial support into our farm. But that's my one. You have to be really creative, but that's something that's really important to our farm.
I would say in addition to that, making sure that if you have a farmer's market stand that you accept WIC and FMMP is huge. Here in Spokane, it's not Market Bucks, it's Fresh Bucks that are offered at the farmer's market. So for every $5 you spend with your ET card, you get an extra 2. And then we also run a program called Kernel here in Spokane, which is a kids eating right, nutrition, exercise for life. So a kid does an activity at the farmer's market, they get $2 that they can go spend on their own, which is, getting fresh food into kids' hands, which makes them empowered and usually brings their parents along too. So that's
Yeah, and as a seller, understanding that those programs exist, we create products at that price point. So we have the $2 Kernel Cash product for the child, so it's a small bag of carrots or a small bag of peas or whatever it may be, so that they don't come up and require real cash from a parent who may not have extra cash, so that that kid can actually have something that they eat as a result of engaging with that program. And also just pricing things at that $4 mark, because that's what the WIC check is, or having, say, combinations of things that add up to $12 because that's what the WIC check is, because otherwise those individuals are stuck trying to find like the combination of a $3 item and a $5 item and a $2 item and a $6 item that may not exist. And so we try and at least create a fluidity within the alternative cash, quote unquote, that those types of people may be bringing to the market. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, we are small independent producers who farm to earn a living for ourselves, and we aren't farming just to feed people who can't support us to farm. And that's always going to be a balance, but I think first and foremost, you have to be a viable farm before you can turn around and just give away the level of work that you've done.
That's perfect ending. We're all focused on farm viability, so hopefully there are a few creative ideas in here, or maybe things that you're doing yourself, and it's nice to know others are as well. We are at time, is that correct? But you guys are going to be around here for a little bit, so I'm sure if you want to stick around and have a conversation, that's great. But before you go, please take a minute to fill out the yellow evaluations. And let's give these guys a round of applause.